No one likes being told what to do, but when asked a question, then that person actually owns the answer.
Right.
And so even though there's two ways to get to a destination, there's telling, great, you'll get there super quick, but that person who's receiving that information doesn't own the answer. But when you're asking good quality questions to get that person to the same outcome, then that person owns the answer and they're more likely to actually implement that information because they own that answer.
Welcome, everyone, to Realizations. I'm your host, Andrea Gordon, and I'm here today with James Short, who is a performance coach. And the reason why I'm having James on the show is because I went on his podcast, and first off, it was very fun. But secondly, I think that he has a lot to say about the things that are really important to realtors and other people in industries where they have to interface with human beings. So he's very useful for pretty much anybody in terms of making sure that you reach your goals, making sure that you are approaching things with what I like to call kairos. The word kairos means being able to read the room, being able to understand what is going on for the people that you're talking to, and learning how to listen. So welcome, James. Hello. Tell us a little bit more
Thank
about
you
where are you based?
so much. Yes, I do have an accent. It is from Australia. We're a little place down here underneath the bottom of the globe. From a place called Byron Bay in New South Wales in Australia. Now, if you've ever seen any of the Marvel or any of you seen the Thor movies, Chris Hemsworth, he's my next door neighbor up the road a little bit. So that's where I'm located. And I'm a performance coach here in Australia, but also have clients across the globe.
That's super awesome. And, one of the things that really struck me about our conversation before was your conversation with me about developing emotional intelligence and goal setting. So I wanted to talk to you a little bit about that. And I also wanted to talk about leadership and what that means to you.
Definitely. And based from our chat just the other day on our podcast, Leading and Growing Your Real Estate Business, well, is that beautiful connection that you also mentioned around reading the room, the communication, and really listening to the person in front of you. And I think part of that is that emotional intelligence. And I think where the industry is going, where realtors are going, it's a piece that is sometimes forgotten. But as the world of AI is increasing, it needs to be on the forefront of everyone's insight and also awareness piece.
Yes, I just left a 2-day board retreat for the Association of Realtors and the multiple listing service that I'm part of. And there was a lot of conversation about AI and what AI can do and where AI is taking us. And what really has resonated for me the most in talking with you and other people is the fact that our very humanness and our very authenticity is going to become the very most important thing that we can possibly bring to the table. So when you formed, well, tell me a little bit about how you became a performance coach. I'm curious about that.
So it's quite an interesting story. Obviously back in the early days, after school, I went to college, university here, and I actually studied sports science. I love sport. I love playing rugby union and surfing, obviously here in Australia, and also water polo. And
Mhm.
I was thinking of maybe having a career in rugby union, but obviously injuries happened, and I went down the path of, well, how do I help others? How do I help other athletes? How do I help other people? And through studying that, we actually opened our first gymnasium here in Australia, which led to two, and we were voted Australia's leading fitness center here as a small to medium sized fitness center, and that grew some great success. And what really intrigued me was it wasn't about getting clients to run more or eat less. It was actually what was going on inside of their brain. So
Mhm.
myself and my business partner studied neuro-linguistic programming,
Yes.
hypnosis, and timeline therapy to really understanding what are the beliefs and the behaviors that are holding people back from their health and fitness goals.
And for
And I had
my,
a bunch
viewers who are not aware of neuro linguistic programming and what did you call that time?
timeline therapy
Yeah.
and hypnosis.
Can you explain what those are? Most people understand what hypnosis is, but neuro-linguistic programming and timeline therapy.
Yeah, perfect. Neuro-linguistic programming is the study the mind, linguistic language, and programming. So we have our programs, our beliefs, and our behaviors formed from obviously from the ages of 0 and 7. And when you can actually have a conversation with someone, you can actually start to determine what their beliefs and what their behaviors are just from their language patterns that they're actually presenting to you. And so when you can actually have an understanding around it, you can then actually change that language pattern. You can change that pattern. You can change that belief through a different type of modalities and process that you learn in neurolinguistic programming. So things like overcoming beliefs, overcoming behaviors,
Mhm.
reprogramming the mind. It's a very, very powerful modality. Then with
Oh,
timeline therapy, which
mhm.
works in with that as well, is that we store all our beliefs and our behaviors on our timeline from the day dot to where we are now. And what happens, the difference between timeline therapy and normal therapy practices, it actually doesn't get you back into maybe that bad experience or that past experience. It allows you to stay at the top and view down at that past experience, which will then allow you to let go of those negative emotions and that
Mhm.
negative experience, and then reprogram that experience to a positive outcome. So you're
Mhm.
then not hooked into those past beliefs and past behaviors that you may not be aware of. So
Right.
once again, some great modalities to, particularly in the real estate space, because the fear of rejection, the fear of failure, the fear of what people think, all those key things when making those phone calls, knocking on those doors, it is a game changer.
And I'm going to give you a little piece of minor advice coming from an older person. One of the great things about getting old is all that stuff stops mattering to you.
Yeah.
When you're in your teens, 20s, 30s, and even for some people into your 40s, you are so concerned with what other people think. It's mind-boggling. And I've gotten to the point where, except for wanting my own curiosity and my own whatever, I don't really care what other people think of me. I've really gotten to the point where I just could give a you know what. And that actually really helps. So the wisdom of age in part is just getting to the point where you realize it doesn't matter. We all put our pants on one leg at a time. We all go out into the world. We all have experiences. We all have failures. We all have successes. And no one really cares about it except for you. So you better care about yourself a little bit there and there. But that's wonderful. That's really interesting. Yeah, my coach does a lot of the neuro-linguistic program. Like I'll say the word try and she'll be like, not try. Going to, or
All right.
where with some what I hope
I
is a
hope.
wonderful word that's so vague and it doesn't do anything. And want, when you use the words want and need, basically you're coming from a place of scarcity. So if you need something, then you need it more than the other side needs it, right? So you take that word out of your vocabulary and use something else. And that's very simplistic. And I'm sure that whatever you're doing is way more high level than that. But it's really interesting how you can program yourself by being negative or being positive.
And the first step around that is the self-awareness piece. We have a platform or a process when it's called playing above the line. And when we talk about actions, when we talk about results, it's the playing above the line model. And when we play above the line, we take accountability, responsibility, and ownership over our outcomes.
Mhm.
However, what can happen really quickly is people play below the line.
Mhm.
And we do this great little exercise in the workshops that I run. When we play below the line, we come from a space of blame,
Mhm.
denial, or justification. And so what I do in the workshop, like I use that as a framework to set the framework up for the workshop. And I said, this is how quickly it can play out. All right, we're going to play a game of Simon Says. Simon Says the game's, everyone stand up, right? And everyone stand up. I said, you're all out. Simon actually didn't say. And just in that split second, people go, oh, but that's not fair. You didn't tell me. I said, are we playing above or below the line? And so this is how quickly our mind works. And we can justify things, we can blame things, we can go down that long river called denial. But
Mhm.
when we actually flip the switch and we take accountability, responsibility, and ownership over our actions and our outcomes, it's a game changer. Not today, not next week, but right now, it is absolute game changer.
Yeah, there's a book I love called The Four Agreements, which
Oh, love it.
yeah, I mean, I think everybody should have a copy of that book on their desk because it really it outlines a lot of what you're talking about. And, just because, my old broker used to have a little statue on her desk that said, just because you're having an emergency doesn't mean I'm having one. I have one on
Yes.
my desk that says, "What would you attempt to do if you knew you could not fail?" Because I don't actually believe there is such a thing as failure. I think that there are learning experiences and there are successes, and that's
Yep.
really it. And so if you come
So
from
true.
that place, I always like if I don't get a listing, I don't go down into the dumps. I write an email to the person saying, "Okay, thank you so much for letting me know. In the interest of doing better, can you tell me if there was anything in particular that stood out for you that I could change so that my performance is better the next time I go on a listing appointment?" And by the way,
Love it.
very, very few times has anybody ever responded to that, but at least I put it out there. And if you just keep putting it out there, that's the important thing. You can't be responsible for what that other person on the other end is doing. But as long as you come with an open heart and curiosity, that's really all that matters.
And
Um,
I love that open heart piece because I think that is a vulnerability piece, and I think that's a piece where it's I'm here to learn, I'm here to grow. I'm also here to serve no matter what that outcome is. And so
yeah,
that's
you
love that
can't be
piece.
attached to the outcome because you can't control all the variables, but all you can do is do
Totally.
what you can do. In terms of yeah, I could only by the way, your metaphor about under the line and above the line, I kept on thinking because I played, water polo myself when I was intramural at UC Santa Barbara, and there was so much stuff going on below below the line. All I could think of was people
Oh.
grabbing at my suit, kicking me. It's
Yes. It's like the duck analogy. On top of the water, everything seems nice and calm, cool and collected. Underneath, they're really paddling really,
right.
really mad. Yep.
Exactly, exactly. So taking your the metaphor of your life from sports performance, from what could be perceived as a failure, you obviously got injured and didn't go into professional rugby. At that point in time, you took the information that you had and the knowledge that you had and the capability that you had and tried to help other people with it. And you opened gyms. Now you've taken that skill set from gyms and into essentially performance coaching in all sorts of other areas. Do you have clients that are outside of real estate?
So on that process, so there was a bunch of realtors who actually used to train in the gym,
Mhm.
and we got mates, friends with them,
Mhm.
and in 2008 I sold that business to my business partner. And a funny little story. So we obviously worked with a coach as well throughout my business, having those businesses, and we sat down. And 2008 we were ready to franchise the model, and that was the plan. And my business partner said, "You know what? I'm happy where we're at." So I was going down this, and he was going down this way. And
Mhm.
so I was like, "Well, what do we do?" And so back and forth. And he said, "Well, what would it be like if I bought you out?" And so within 4 hours, we came up with the heads of agreement, and I was selling my share. And the business coach at the time said, "In my 30 years of coaching people, I've never seen that happen so quickly." And he goes, "How come?" I said, "Well, if you're not aligned,
Yeah.
what's the purpose?" And
Right.
so from that exchange, then those friends who were in training at the gym, they said to me, a lot of my friends call me Shorty. Shorty, mate, we need you in our office. We need your goal setting strategies that we use in the gym. We need your mindset strategies that we use to get us training. But we want it more on a business and more in the real estate world. And that from 2008, I still work with that group at the moment, all the way through to the now, and that's where it's gone. A lot of obviously in the real estate space, but there are businesses that also still service the real estate space, but on the sides.
Got it. And you know, my coach, she coaches people that are primarily in real estate, but she also does have some coaching clients that are becoming coaches.
Yes.
Do you have any sort of training involved in what you do that helps people to become coaches?
No, not at this stage. We've got a team of 6 within our office, but I'm
Mhm.
the primary coach that goes
Mhm.
and see clients and runs the workshop, and then I've got the team behind us that helps facilitate all that.
Okay. Okay. You know, it's interesting to me because I believe everyone should have a coach. I'm gonna proselytize about that. I think that you are not capable of seeing outside yourself. You are always a participant in your own life. You are always a participant in whatever you do. You can't get that, you know, that 10,000 foot view from a small airplane looking down on the situation that a coach can have. And I've noticed it myself when I've had a really terrible situation in a real estate transaction, my coach will say just one pithy thing to me and I'll be like, "Oh, of course, you're right." And the same thing will happen for me with a friend coming to me with some curiosity about some real estate thing. I'll be like, well, have you done blah? And they'll be like, oh my God, of course. I should have done that. I should have asked the title company for that in the beginning of all this. And so it's kind of funny because we just can't see ourselves the way others truly see us.
Yeah.
And I think a coach who is very attuned and genuinely listens to what you want to accomplish is really an essential part of your success as a realtor or as even as a person. I mean, I think there are different kinds of therapy for different kinds of things, and I wouldn't call coaching therapy. Coaching is literally coaching.
Yeah.
It's helping someone who's in the middle of the game to figure out what the play should be, as
And
opposed to
that's
yeah.
exactly it. It's if you look at the sports analogy of coaching, it's the
Mhm.
game, it's the what's the play that we need to play out here. And I'm a big philosophy that, for those who have been in the real estate game for a little while now, you know the answers.
Mhm.
You know what you really deep inside, you really know what you should be doing. It's the
Mhm.
coach getting that information out of you, not by telling, but by asking the specific questions. Because no one likes being told what to do. But when
Yeah.
asked a question, right? When asked a
Right.
question, then that person actually owns the answer.
Right.
And so even though there's two ways to get to a destination, there's telling, great, you'll get there super quick, but that person who's receiving that information doesn't own the answer. But when you're asking good quality questions to get that person to the same outcome, then that person owns the answer and they're more likely to actually implement that information because they own that answer. And
And
that
that's
is
actually the same as
the difference.
therapy too, because
Yep.
they ask question after question. But finish your thought. I'm sorry I interrupted you.
Oh, no, but and that was it. And so what we've realized, our type of coaching, most people know the answers, but it's just getting them to own the answer and then action that answer.
Yeah. It's a beautiful thing. And also, I mean, I've heard that when you're taking notes, if you actually physically write them down rather than type them, that connection between your pen and the paper and your thought process is actually more useful for your memory than typing something.
Massively.
It's certainly better than, automatically highlighting online because you won't know what you're talking about. Or even writing in the margins of, something that's been provided to you as a PDF or some such. So when you are helping people to set goals, what do you focus on? How do you get somebody to the place where they can set proper goals for themselves that make sense?
Sure. So definitely, I love that analogy of writing goals down, particularly in handwritten, and also the use of color. Using different colors is also another advanced learning technique that actually goes into your subconscious mind, and it's easy then to recall that information compared to talking or compared to typing them out. So when we set goals, what I look at is, well, what's the history? Some people say, "Oh, I never set goals. I don't set goals." Well, look at the why then. And a lot of people, a fear of setting goals for fear
Mhm.
of not achieving them. They may not know the actual structure of how to set goals. And the good old excuse that I love, "Oh, I just don't have time. I just don't have
Yeah.
time." And I call that out because when we unpack it, everyone has time. It's just, are you being busy or are you actually being productive? And so we look at that. I like to look at, okay, what could be some big picture goals? And I like to look at what's called the wheel of life. And it's not just business focus. We look at things like on the 8 different cogs of the wheel of life, we have health and fitness, we have family, we have relationships, we have obviously work and career, we have finances, investments, we have holidays, breaks, we have hobbies, and we have personal development. And so what I get people to do is to take stock of, if you were to rate yourself out of 10 on each of those different areas right now. One is you're struggling, it's not happening at all. And 10 being you're in flow, everything's going well. And what happens if people will fill it out? Could be 3, could be 5, could be 8, whatever it is, that's totally fine. What that does is then when you join the dots on a wheel, you'll see actually how imbalanced your wheel is. And we all have different seasons that we go through. Sometimes we need to focus more on work. Sometimes we need to focus more on our health. But it's having that awareness piece and to
Mhm.
go, if you're a 3, let's not try and get to an 8. Let's just
Mhm.
try and get to a 4. And what does a
Mhm.
4 need to look like? And
Mhm.
so doing it in incremental stages, obviously we then, once we get a snapshot of where we are, we go, okay, what would that next 12 months need to be? What would you
Mm-hmm.
like it to be? If you would set those 12 months goals, that's great. Let's set those 12 months goals in those areas. Then we can dial in on what the business might need to look like if that's a key focus for you, particularly coming in 2026. From
Mm-hmm.
there is that we work on what's called 90-day plans. And
Mm-hmm.
those 90-day plans is based on a couple of different things. Is identifying 2 to 3 key projects to work on and
Mm-hmm.
2 to 3 key performance factors to work on. Now, let me share what the difference is. A project is something usually with an end date. So it could be an update of your website. It could be on a podcast. It could be a blog. It could be recruiting a new team member. And so that's usually a due date. And obviously, there are many actions along the 90-day plan that you need to do in order to achieve that due date. But the performance thing are things that we do either daily or weekly to enable you to move closer to those goals. So, for example, if obviously you want to increase your listings, well, what's that a daily activity that you need to do to move you closer to those listings? Is it the calls? Is it the letterbox? Is it the socials? Whatever it is for you, what is that you can set aside as that target to set
Mm-hmm.
yourself accountability? And then the game changer, the last piece is what we call our 30-day goal smashing challenge. And this is something that we're launching in the new year. Actually, in the US, had some huge success here in Australia around the 30-day goal smashing challenge. And
Mm-hmm.
it is really dialing in that focus and that clarity, because a lot of the times we get busy being busy, but
Right.
this is about how do we distract from the noise and focus on what we need to get done over the 30 days. And then
Mm-hmm.
we reset that every 30 days. So
That's
that's
great.
that's how we go about it.
And how do you, as the coach, maintain an understanding of what, I mean, I can look at somebody and I know what they basically need to do, but you've got this goal set for them to figure it out for themselves in a certain way, what's most important to them. How do you keep that in mind when working with them? How do you stop your
So
own biases from affecting what you're doing?
really good point. And it's about understanding the past and understanding where their journey has become, where their journey has started from.
Hmm.
That will allow me to go, okay, so is that aligned to their goals? Is that realistic? Show me in the past where they've achieved that success or close to that success, or is it just a pie in the sky goal?
Hmm.
Right? I'd much rather put someone actually dial down their goal and
Hmm.
actually have some mini wins to get that confidence and build that momentum, rather
Hmm.
than saying if you've got $1 million goal that you want to achieve and you're only earning 100,000 over the last 3 years each
That's
year,
too lofty.
well,
Yeah.
is that going to be realistic? And so this
Hmm.
is where understanding the mindset around clients of, is it
Hmm.
just pie in the sky, or is it, hey, how about we go for 250?
Hmm.
Once you achieve the 250, how about we go for 400? And that's
Right.
obviously then guiding them through questioning to achieve the desired outcome, to build the confidence, to build the momentum, and to build the consistency.
Very cool. And in terms of your own background in real estate, what you obviously met all these people at the gym, but you're not a realtor. So how did
Correct.
you prepare yourself to understand the nature of the real estate business so that you could be most effective?
It's a very interesting journey because yes, I've only bought and sold my own personal real estate, but actually haven't been a property manager, haven't been a sales agent. But
Right.
the understanding of the psyche, and I'll tell people straight up front, I'm not here about your scripts and dialogues or anything like that. I'm more interested about what's going on in here. I've got a bunch of other trainers and coaches I can refer on to that aspect, but I'm interested about you because it's people business. It's about
Right.
how we connect. It's about how we communicate. It's about using that emotional intelligence. It's about connection, communication, and achieving those goals. So that's where my piece is around understanding what's going on in here.
Well, good. Yeah, the best manager I ever had actually hadn't been a realtor, believe it or not. She had been the assistant to the head of a real estate company. And so she saw all the transactions, but she didn't do them herself. And she actually has gone on to become one of the managers of the managers at Compass.
Wow.
Interestingly, she was a manager when I was at Coldwell Banker years and years and years ago. And our trajectories have gone to the point where we're now working for the same company again, which is interesting. So so you don't, it's sort of like when I'm directing a play. I'm not an actor. I was an actor when I was a child. I was a ridiculous child actor with a stage mom and the whole thing. But I didn't like it that much. It wasn't me. I liked being able to put everything together. I liked seeing all the pieces and what have you. And I know about acting, so I can talk to actors about acting and I can elicit good performances out of them without, but I couldn't do what they do. That what they do is something that I'm in awe of and I love it. But so I understand, and I think that's a mistake that people make. It's like, because I'm a very top producing realtor, I am constantly being asked to become a manager of companies. It's hysterical. I get an offer like that once a week, and every time I'm like, no, I would never do that.
Mhm. Yep. I've
I
I've
don't
seen
want.
that. I've seen that so many
Yeah,
times that, businesses ask their top performers to be their sales manager. Worst thing that they can do,
right,
leave them to
right.
be their top performer and get a person who knows how to manage people in there.
Exactly, exactly. And I think that that's an interesting thing in all of the work life situations that I've ever seen, both nonprofit arts groups, real estate companies, other companies. People are attuned to very specific roles and they resonate for them in very specific ways. And when somebody wants me to be a manager, I know that their company isn't good. I know that sounds terrible, but it's really true. There's a lack of what were calling before emotional intelligence. It's not understanding what's really important in the different roles that people play. So, in terms of roles that people play, how do you involve yourself in leadership? You're a leader of a group of 6 trainers. You work with people who need to become leaders. I'm guessing that some of the realtors you work with become team leaders. How do you think of leadership? Please be explicit.
I love it. I love this topic. It's a beautiful topic, and I think it's definitely a topic we all need to learn and be aware of because we are all leaders.
Mhm,
We may be leading small teams, or we may be leading families, but the most priority is we're leading ourselves. We're leading
mhm,
ourselves on how we get up out of bed, how do we take those actions, how do we achieve our goals and communicate and everything else in between. And I'll give you an example so I can be quite specific. So I've got a client here in Australia. He's got 27 offices, over 300 staff, and he's got a leadership team of 22, and they're all on different levels, different departments, and so forth. And so we ran a emotional intelligence leadership program for them, where we could actually we test their leadership emotional intelligence skills up front, and each different month we had a module that would go through, and they would be surveyed amongst each other, but they'd also be surveyed amongst the 300 staff to see where their emotional intelligence is landing. And I think emotional intelligence is such an important, impactful thing when it comes to leadership because it's understanding, firstly, your own emotions when dealing with what I call courageous conversations or leading people. So it's how do you respond and what are your internal triggers? Because there's 4 key elements to emotional intelligence. There's firstly understanding your own emotions. Secondly is how you deal with those emotions, how you manage those emotions. Thirdly, then, is understanding other people's emotions. And fourthly, is how do you manage those emotions? And so, as a leader, that's so crucial because it may be dealing with objection, it's maybe getting that listing appointment, or it may be just managing your own small or medium or large team. And so
mhm,
we went through this program, this 6 month program, and what we realized is their leadership skills, their engagement with their wider team, has absolutely improved out of sight. Less sick days, more productivity throughout the offices, and the company wide, more listings, more property management have come on. They've stayed longer. It's just been phenomenal in relations to the connection piece that these executive leaders, this leadership team, has had with their wider team. And that's based from this key piece around emotional intelligence and really understanding self first, how to manage it, how to understand others, and how to manage their emotional state as well.
So, in order to do this emotional intelligence sort of quiz that you gave everybody, is that sort of like a Myers Briggs, or did you invent it yourselves?
So we're in partnership with a company over in the States called Talent Smarts. And that's like Myers Briggs. It's an online quiz that once you do it, takes about 10-15 minutes that you'll get your full report back and where you are in relations to the standards and where and what the good thing about it is there's actually some great strategies in there to how to improve your different areas of your emotional intelligence.
Very cool. Very, very cool. Yeah, I've done all those personality tests, and I actually use them when I'm hiring people because I don't want
Yes,
another me. I want somebody who compliments me.
definitely.
I'm a massive driver, as you probably already know, and I have too much driver, and I'm also intuitive, so the combination is kind of unusual, and so I want people that are going to be very happy doing the things I don't like to do. Um,
Definitely.
in my team, and I finally have the right team, which has been a big hit or miss thing. And if I'd met somebody that was more organized in terms of what you're talking about earlier in my career, I might have had less of the Seinfeld episode of hiring people than I've had along the way. So we have actually hit our time. I can't believe it. You're just so wonderful to talk to. I'd
Thank you.
love to have you on again any old time. I think my viewers would be getting so much from a conversation like this. And for them to understand where they could reach you and get in touch with you if they want your incredible services, James, how do they reach you?
Definitely. So website is jamesshort.com.au and on all the socials as Coach James Short.
Very cool. Well, you have a wonderful Australian day because it's the late
Thank you.
morning there for you. Tomorrow here for me, and I look forward to our continued conversations. You're wonderful, and I appreciate you fully.
Thank you very much. It's an honor and a privilege to be on the show.
Awesome.
If you loved hearing from these incredible voices shaping real estate, you'll want to catch what's next. Click the video on screen to keep discovering more inspiring stories.